Good morning, everyone. Today's Tuesday, November the 20th, and this is the futures in 5, taking a look at this general rout we've got in the pre-market. Charts really fading sharply. We've got a lot of particular worries. There's the Brexit thing going on. There's stuff roiling in our own political system. There's credit tightening starting to show in the markets. A lot of things really making traders unsettled. And so we are drifting further to the south. We've got a lot of negative pressure moving us down into these deeper levels. We're really a do or die space for the markets to hold. If we can't come out of this motion here, right around 2642 to 2634, and of course you can see how slushy that edge is, we will move all the way down to 2600 and below, and that's the old low from back in October, completely fading that space. I've got volume profiles up for us so that we can see that this noise here was filled in quite nicely here, but then we made it into this noise and then completely backed off. Looks to me like we've got more negative action in the space, so all bounces are going to be into sell zones. What happens normally in these kinds of deep markets? We have relief bounces that show up, so don't go short and then taking a round of golf or anything. This is definitely shorting action. We just have to watch for where these support zones hold. And we start looking at major support action coming in around 2654. Taking a look at the NQ, this one's in really bad shape. Of course, as my heading suggests, for the blog post, credit markets tightening really going to affect the NQ and the RTY, particularly as tech falls a bit out of favor. I've been talking about this for months, literally, it feels like, but really it's only been about 6 or 7 weeks that we have been looking for the new environment that is a stock picker space. Notice my last trigger for the low back in October broken here in the NQ. You can see that it is much weaker. 6631 is a space we've got to recover, but right now, I mean, we are looking at deep fades that are giving us target zones that we haven't seen in quite some time. Certainly not until the very beginning of this contract did we see this kind of motion, and so that's been around for a while. Are we coming to an edge where we have resistance colliding against support? You know what? We won't be able to make any kind of assessment until we get back up over 6605. Anything underneath there that we try to pick is going to be bottom picking, and that could get very nasty for the trader. That being said, we see this level of support here. We know that we could lift and then move forward if that happens. Otherwise, every bounce is into resistance. Let's take a look at the YM. Notice YM doing much better than really all the others. This is a big zone. I've talked about this 24,788 area. It slashed right through it, but this is an inflection zone, and that inflection zone says, hey, you know what? I need to look at the last time I had a solid support zone in this area, and I'm going to look back over here for momentum. I can see it's all the way down there in the space, but we've got peak in the volume profiles right here, and as this cross sits here, we have to go back to this level and say, all right, what can I look for? Can I bottom pick here? My thought really is that you can. And I know this could be very tricky here. So what you'd want to do is move to a very tight time frame and then watch this chart action hold in the space. I realize that what I'm saying is something very counterintuitive, but for me, this looks like a space where we could struggle to see a bounce. If we fade deeply and then we begin to recover, that's going to be an old support that's going to turn into resistance. We want to watch it. These gray areas of the volume profile tell us where 70.07 of the information and volume is being held, and we can see that we've got these little valleys here that we could easily fill in on the bounce action. Right now, it's saying, hey, listen, you don't want to short on the loss of this level unless you're ready to pull it off very quickly as it heads into this auction. All right, so watch for that. Failed bounces, of course, are still going to lead to selling opportunities here in the space, but we are starting to form regions that look like price rejection. And so we could see a big flush and then motion. The open should be incredibly important. Here we are fading, of course, global slowdown is the storyboard here. Really, a lot of traders wondering what's going to happen. Listen, I talked about this 5709. Hey, listen, if we can't hold up over this area, the second it loses it, we've got problems. It certainly has been a great area to initiate a short as soon as it loses that area and fails to retest. Now we're looking at a region that has really been primary support. Right on the edge there, what should happen if we fade? Okay, if we fade, what we should be seeing, listen, the last inflection and crossover we had was right here in this congestion zone. It matches the volume profile event. So as we drift down into these areas, we should see buying pressure come into play. So you don't want to short this unless you've seen a failed retest. This is the level that I am watching in the blog for a breakdown pattern. So we want to watch a failed breakdown rather than anything else, right? We just don't want to short at that edge. We are breaking out here in the space. This is the target action for this one. Notice the thin volume profile here. Volume profile so important in the space. This area right down here still needs to fill in a little bit to look a bit better. These are 2-week profiles, as in WEEK. And so what should we be looking for? Stair-step motion that takes us into breakout levels. I have 1228.70 as that breakout zone. It is resisting it at the first pass. Remember, we want it to pop up, over, and come back to give us an opportunity. What does that do? It takes patience. All right. Be careful, folks. Today's going to be a very interesting day. This has been the Futures in 5.